There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with another stab at the 10 books tag, the Scribd version. I originated this tag at end of March. It's actually a spin-off on my original tag from about a year and a half ago called the 10 books tag, where you just pull 10 books off your shelf, off your Amazon wish list, out of your imagination, from the New York Times book review, wherever, and talk about them. So it's a very flexible tag. You can just, if you're just in the mood to talk about books, but you don't have any, wrap-ups to do or whatever, it's just very flexible that way. And then I adapted it to the app, which is kind of like Netflix for book nerds, called Scribd. I've been a member of Scribd for 3 years, I think, and it gives me access to hundreds of thousands of ebooks and tens of thousands, or I don't know how many, audiobooks, and it's really great. $10 a month. This is not an advertisement for them. I am not being paid to say this. It's not a perfect service, but I really love it. And for this version of the 10 books tag, the Scribd version, I'm just going to tell you about the last 10 books that I have saved to my wish list or want to read list. It's actually called Library in Scribd, and tell you what I've added. So that is how it goes. The most recent book that I've added, so this is number 1 to my saved list, is a work of maybe literary criticism, A Short History of the Short Story, Western and Asian Traditions, by Gulnaz Fatima. And I am interested in the short story in a kind of formal genre way. I enjoy reading short stories. I'm curious about why so many readers don't take to them, and why I go through phases of really liking them and then kind of distancing myself from that kind of fiction. And I also don't know how to talk about short stories the way that I know how to talk about a novel. Like a collection of short stories. How do you review it? I've never found a way to satisfyingly talk about a collection. And I'm interested, what makes a short story work that's completely different from how a novel works, and as some people argue is more akin to how a poem works. I don't have the vocabulary or the intellectual learning to talk about short stories that way, and that's why I bookmarked this. But this one is talking about the Western tradition and the Asian tradition, so that was very interesting. That's all I know about it. Number 2 is a novel on audio, The Night Tiger by Yangtze Chu, which I think Robert of Barter Hordes is buddy reading with somebody. I think probably Jacqueline. If it's not Jacqueline, it's probably Doris, because they're buddy reading with the rest of BookTube at any given time. They're wonderful. And I think Robert said he was enjoying it. It was vaguely on my radar. It's a Chinese historical novel about an apprentice dressmaker, a dance hall girl, an orphan boy, and their fates entangle over an old Chinese superstition about men who turns into tigers. Heard good things about it. That's all I know. The next one was one that Cousin of Always Doing included in her latest wrap-up, Permission by Saskia Vogel. It sounded really intriguing the way she talked about it. I found what she said about it really articulate, but I also found the things that she said she didn't know how to say about it really enticing. It is about a failing actress. The plot almost doesn't matter, but there's some aspects of non-mainstream sexuality, domination, S&M, I'm not sure, treated in a very literary way. Just listening to her talk about it, I added it to my list, so maybe I'll give it a try. Number 4 is and I have no memory of why I added this. I think this was just a Twitter, somebody mentioned it on Twitter. It's a novel called Lake Overturn by Vestal McIntyre. Almost 500 pages. I don't know about, I've heard Vestal McIntyre's name. It's set in a town called Eula, Idaho. 2 single mothers, neighbors in Eula's trailer park. That's all I need to know about the plot. Who is Vestal McIntyre? An American author, no surprise. Oh, but based in the UK. Born in Nampa, Idaho? There's a town called Nampa? Oh, I guess the spelling in Japanese is Nampa. Nanpa. This is Nampa, but the sound is almost exactly the same. And Nampa is like being kind of slutty, picking people up, picking a man or a woman up for sex only, casual sex, kind of being a Don Juan type thing. Nampa. Oh dear. He has published a short collection of short stories. Yeah, I think he's kind of considered Scottish. I think he lives in Scotland. That's what first got me onto him. And he's gay. That's all I know. Oh, I want to know more about him. In fact, this novel, Lake Overturn, has some kind of a gay theme because it won a Lambda Literary Award. So there you go. It was published in 2009. And since then, he has published 2 more books, one in 2013, Almost Tall, and 2 novellas in a collection entitled Strangers to Youth in 2014. Has anybody out there read Vestal McIntyre? I am intrigued. The 5th one is one that I may consider for the Middle East Readathon happening in June. It's a novella called Woman at Point Zero by Nawal El-Sadawi. It's a seminal feminist novel. I'm not sure if those words fit together, from the Arab world, which I have as a 135-page ebook. She's an Egyptian feminist writer, activist, physician, and psychiatrist. Wow. She is 87 years old. Oh, I'm going to put her picture up here. She looks fabulous. I love her. Just look at this photo. She's been in prison. Lots of other persecution. Short stories. Numerous novels. Nonfiction. Oh, she sounds fascinating. Oh my God. I really should try to fit this in. I'm seeing a whole list of books here. And the one that I have is Woman at Point Zero, published in 1975, translated into English in 1983. It's based on her meeting with a female prisoner, a first-person account of a murderess who has agreed to tell her life story before her execution. Interesting. So my 6th one is an Annie Proulx novel that I don't have a physical copy of, Accordion Crimes, and I have now blanked out on which booktuber talked about it in either a tag video or a wrap-up, and it sounded really interesting, and I loved Proulx's The Shipping News. It's one of my favorite novels, probably. Didn't care for Barkskins. Loved the short story, the gay one, whatever it's called. Hello. And that's all I've read of her. So it sounded like, was it Mark Nash? Anyway, somebody. It's about the immigrant experience in America through the eyes of descendants of Mexicans, Poles, Africans, Irish Scots, Franco-Canadians, and many others. Short stories? No, it's a novel. So yeah, that sounds interesting. My 7th is an audiobook that I think it's newly published. A Turkish novel, Walking on the Ceiling by, oh dear. I'm going to have to look up the pronunciation of this. I'm not finding any help online, so I will just take a stab at it. Aysegul Savas. And the novel is called Walking on the Ceiling. It's only 4 hours on audio. A mesmerizing novel set in Paris and a changing Istanbul about a young Turkish woman grappling with her past. Anybody heard anything more about it? Number 8 is a Welsh novel called Black Parade by Jack Jones. Scribd is amazing for all the Welsh literature they have in ebook format. And anything that I see, I bookmark because I'm so interested in it. I think this was published back in the day. I'll check that in a minute. I don't actually understand what this means. One of Merthyr's Victorian Brickyard Girls. Charlotte, what does that mean? Saren watches the world parade past her doorstep on the banks of the stinking and rat-infested Morlaix Brook. Published in 1935. Jack Jones was a writer, soldier, and political activist. So many of the Welsh novelists were political activists. I don't know that you had much choice. It's kind of like Quebec writers or anyone from a oppressed part of the world. You're both. We people in the politically, kind of stable and unoppressed, the writers can afford not to be political, but not in places like Wales. A superbly riotous, clear, and unsentimental picture of Merthyr life as his hometown reels headlong into the 20th century. What is Merthyr? Is that a town? It's a town in Wales, a large town, population 64,000 people, 23 miles north of Cardiff. At one time, the largest town in Wales. It's the 5th largest urban area by population in Wales today. So that's the setting. Interesting. Charlotte, any thoughts? 9 is also a Welsh novel, The Battle to the Weak by Hilda Vaughan. It's the first, and they said arguably one of the finest of Hilda Vaughan's 10 novels. Set in a small rural Welsh community. A new generation clashes with the conservative traditionalism of the old Welsh way of life. That's all I need to know. Let's see about Hilda Vaughan, though. She died in 1985. She was in her 90s. Welsh novelist and short story writer, writing in English. Most of her novels were set in her native Radnorshire, concerning rural communities and heroines. Oh, sounds fabulous. The Battle to the Weak was published in 1925. Oh my God. I can't wait. Charlotte, help! So the last book that I will tell you about today, number 10 on my Scribd saved list, is one that's just been newly published, and there's been quite a bit of buzz, I think. Arid Dreams, a short story collection by Dunwad Pimwana, set in working-class Thailand. I am reading a book of short stories from a Thai writer. Quite enjoying it. This one has just been published. Lots of buzz about it. Oh, and he also... Huh? Is this a man or a woman? It's a woman, okay. She has also published a novel this year, maybe in English translation. Both of them... Well, I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Dunwad Pimwana is a pen name. She was born to farmer parents. She's known for fusing touches of magic realism with social realism. She has written 9 books. But she also has this novel called Bright, also published in English this year, translated by the same translator. So she's got 2. So if I like the short stories, I will move on to the novel. So those are the 10 most recent books I have saved to my Scribd library to be read in the future. So many of them sound so great. So I don't know who to tag other than that since I last did this tag, Heidi of My Reading Life got Scribd. So I'm tagging you, my dear, and then I don't know who else of you, lovely people, have a Scribd membership. So I'm just going to throw it open to anybody. You have to have Scribd to do this tag. Otherwise, just do the generic 10 books tag. Let me do that. The generic 10 books tag, as I said at the beginning, is you just pull 10 books off your shelf. Maybe you've read them, maybe you haven't. Or 10 books that are in your awareness. 10 books you notice when you go browsing at the bookstore or the library, or that are in the New York Times book reviews, or whatever. But 10 books that are on your radar or in your memory. And talk about them. So with that in mind, I'm going to tag a few more people. Even if you don't have Scribd, do the generic 10 books tag. And so I will tag... Who didn't I tag in the last video? I will tag Marian Ryan. Welcome to BookTube, my dear. Sonya of An Enthusiastic Reader. From the Dusty Bookshelf. I've been wanting to tag you forever. Laura Frey. And Amy Poole. Thanks for watching.